Welcome to week 5 of Meal Prep Mastery. This week we'll be focusing on lamb mince, and by the end of tonight's class you'll have made moussaka, shepherd's pie and lamb koftas with couscous. To start, bring your lamb mince. If you like, you can skip this step and add your mince to your sautéed vegetables, but I think it's worth the extra time for the flavour boost. In a frying pan over a medium to low heat, brown 500 grams of your lamb mince in batches, reserving the fat in a medium to large pot or pressure cooker. 2 batches was enough for me, but as long as you don't add too much mince at the one time so that your mince steams rather than browns, you're good. While your mince is browning, finely dice 2 onions, a carrot and a stick of celery and sauté in the pot with the reserved lamb fat until soft and sweet. Then turn the oven on and heat to 180 degrees Celsius. While your veg is cooking off, slice 2 aubergines into about 3/4 of a centimetre thick slices. You should get about 6 slices from each, and I usually trim the end bit off them, but if you like the skin, you can leave them on. Cover a large tray with baking paper and brush with a thin coating of olive oil. Place the aubergine slices on top and then brush them with oil before seasoning with salt and pepper. Bake in the oven at 180 degrees for a fan oven for about 40 to 45 minutes until cooked through and golden brown. Peel and mince 3½ cloves of garlic, and when the vegetables are soft and sweet, turn the heat down to low and add 2 minced cloves, keeping the remaining garlic for the koftas. Cook out the garlic for a little before adding the mince back to the pot. Then crumble in a beef stock cube and stir in before adding a bay leaf and some dried mixed herbs. Turn the heat up to medium-high and add about 100 ml of red wine and reduce down until it's almost all evaporated. Once most of the wine has evaporated, add about 50 milliliters of water and then add 1 to 2 tablespoons of tomato puree, depending on how much of a tomato hit you like. If you prefer, you can leave the tomato puree out at this stage and only add it to your moussaka mixture if you don't like it in your shepherd's pie. Bring to a simmer and then either cook for 20 minutes in the pressure cooker or an hour in a standard pot. While your mince mixture is cooking, peel and chop about 500 grams of potatoes into chunks and run under cold water to wash off the excess starch. Place the pot on a high heat and bring to the boil before turning down to a simmer and cooking until tender. While everything else is cooking, let's get the koftas made up. In a bowl, grate half an onion and add your remaining 250 grams of lamb mince, a minced clove of garlic, and a tablespoon or so of dried breadcrumbs. Bring a kettle to the boil and then pick the leaves from a bunch of coriander and finely chop, adding about a tablespoon to the bowl before setting the rest aside. Now add a teaspoon each of cumin, ground coriander, paprika and cinnamon. If you want a little bit of heat, add half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper and then season up with some salt and pepper. Give the mixture a good mix with your hands and then divide into 4 balls before shaping into cylinders. You can make these thinner and put them on skewers if you prefer, but as I'm just going to pan fry mine, I didn't bother with the skewers. Once rolled into cylinders, cover with cling film and place in the fridge to firm up a little before we cook them. I'm going to make the yogurt sauce to go with the koftas now, but if you prefer, you can make this up when you come to eat them. Finely chop the zest of a lemon and set aside before adding about 2 tablespoons of Greek yogurt to the remaining ½ clove of minced garlic. Squeeze in a little lemon juice and then add a pinch of cumin or more if you like, a teaspoon of the chopped coriander and a drizzle of olive oil and then season to taste. Now add a cup of couscous to a bowl, about 170 grams, and then make up a cup of chicken stock with the boiled water and half a chicken stock cube. That'd be about 250 ml. Pour the chicken stock over the couscous and cover with cling film, then leave to steam for about 15 minutes. When your lamb mince is finished cooking, remove the bay leaf and split half the mixture into another pan. I just used a wok for this. Add 1 to 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, depending on how much you like it, half a tin of chopped tomatoes, and a teaspoon or 2 of dried oregano. Bring the heat to high and reduce down until thick and glossy, then allow to cool. Chop your remaining carrot and half onion into 1 centimetre sized cubes. I just used a little red onion for this, and add to the other pot, and if it gets a little dry, add some water. Add a good slug of Worcestershire sauce and then cook until the carrots are tender, about 10 minutes or so. Meanwhile, check the potatoes and when ready drain and allow to steam dry for 5 minutes or so. Then mash with about 25 grams of butter and a splash or two of milk until a nice pliable texture. When the carrots are ready, add about 50 grams of frozen peas and then cook for a minute. If the mixture is too thick, add a little water, and if too thin, reduce down over a high heat until it's nice and thick and glossy. When your aubergines are ready, take out of the oven, and if you need the extra room, set aside on a plate to cool. Once the couscous has been steaming for 15 minutes, fluff up with a fork before adding the lemon zest, the rest of the chopped coriander, and a couple of teaspoons of cumin. Give it a mix and then dress with some lemon juice and olive oil before checking for seasoning. Place in your containers and set aside. Now, chop some parsley and add to the shepherd's pie and moussaka mixtures. Place the shepherd's pie mixture into an oven-proof dish and then cover with the mash, forking it up so you get lots of nice crispy bits when you cook it. In another oven-proof dish, place half the sliced aubergines in the layer in the bottom before covering with the spiced lamb mixture. Cover with the remaining aubergines and set aside just now. Now our last two jobs are to make the bechamel sauce and to cook off our koftas. Turn the oven back on to 180 degrees and in an oven-proof frying pan on a medium heat, cook the koftas, turning occasionally to brown all over. If they're not quite cooked through by the time they are nice and brown, pop them in the oven for 5 to 8 minutes to finish off cooking. While the koftas are cooking, melt 30 grams of butter in a heavy based pan over a medium heat. This one isn't the best for this, but it will do. Add 30 grams of flour and cook out for a little before gradually adding about 200 ml of milk. You may need a little less or more, but you're looking for a slightly thicker sauce than you'd usually make. Take off the heat and grate in about 25 grams of parmesan and check for seasoning. Allow to cool slightly before adding an egg and beating in. Then pour over the aubergine, spreading it over to cover evenly. Finish with a little more grated parmesan on top, and when the koftas are cooked, add them to the container with the couscous. You should now have your moussaka, shepherd's pie, and lamb koftas with couscous. Enjoy your meals, and I hope you've enjoyed the course. Take care, and I hope to see you again for the next session.